like, what do you do? Like, yo, Book of John, what you know about that? You know what I mean? Like, you don't know. You can't be like, can I get those digits? You can't. Yo, John 3:16? Like, you don't know what to. So I just said, my name's Keith. I never did that before. That wasn't Newark, New Jersey etiquette 101, how to meet somebody. But I just said, my name's Keith, and I told this, I said, I'm not even supposed to be at this church. That's my friend right there. So the guy that I dropped the car off, he's walking around laughing with an ink pen. Like, go away, man. It's like, yeah, I came to drop a car off to that guy right there that keeps clowning. And so I just asked her, could I call her? Which I would have said something a little more creative than that if we weren't in church. And so, make a long story short, 10 months later, we got married. We've been married going on 20 years in August, right? You thought that was a coincidence? See, God sets us up around each other for a reason, but what happens is the devil's hope is to get us so depressed or introspective that you don't benefit from the connections. I'm going to give you one other story to give you an example. I have a friend, I just heard this story just a couple days ago. He's a part of Sports Outreach. Sports Outreach is sort of like an Athletes in Action. They do missions all over the country. He played professional soccer here in Charlotte for like 11 years. So I ran into him playing basketball in Ohio with another pastor friend of mine. He's a good friend with a pastor friend of mine. The pastor friend of mine can actually ball. So actually, he can ball too. So we met each other, and the pastor was like, yeah, Keith is my friend. He's actually moving to Charlotte. So I could not call when I get here. Like, I do ain't thinking about me. But I called. I just like people. So I called. So we ended up playing in leagues in the summer together. So we played the other day on a Thursday. We ended up going to eat lunch, which I wasn't going to do. So I was like, nah, I got a schedule. I already stretched myself to be out here to play. I got an appointment. But the Lord said, no, go eat with them, even if it's just for a few minutes. I'm so glad I went. He told me a story. He says, so they travel in Africa. So it's I'm supposed to bring my phone out here. That's okay. It's Katawa, something like that, but it's in, I think, Uganda or wherever it is. I could be wrong about the places. And the young lady's name is Fiona. So they're doing missions, and what they do is one guy on their team teaches chess. So he'll just bring the kids in off the street, teach them chess. This girl's 11, on drugs, in the streets, don't go to school, nothing. So, but she was hanging around this facility. So he says, well, you want to learn some chess? So she was like, nah. So so the next day, you sure you don't want to learn? So she said, yes. She says, okay. So she learns chess. This is 11. By the time she's 12, in that area, she wins all the chess championships. By the time she's 12, she wins all the chess championships in their country. By the time she's 13, she wins all the chess championships in Africa. By the time she's either 14 or 15, she's invited to the world chess tournaments. Just recently, her name is Fiona, you can look it up, ESPN picked up the story. So they're going to interview her, if they haven't already, interviewed her on ESPN. And Disney picked it up. So they're going to do a movie on her. I think last week she was in New York speaking. She's going to be in Ohio speaking probably the week after we're going to be there, as opposed to the week we're going to be there. So she's traveling all over the world because somebody taught her chess. Somebody thought about her. What was in him, he gave to her. It changed her life, and of course it changed his life forever. And people all over the world's lives are being changed. All because now they're going to another country just trying to share what's in them in another country. And then that particular person would be a person that people would normally overlook because she had that ghetto on her. She had that edge on her. But packaged in that edge was greatness. They just needed somebody to reach out. See the difference? I thought I'd give you that. I'll get you the actual name so you can look it up. And I don't know if anybody already knew about it, but did you know? Okay. Yeah, so that's. I mean, I think that's pretty powerful. All right, so the goal is we want to share God's love. It's in here somewhere, ain't it? Yeah, living by faith, being led by the Spirit, revealing purpose, sharing God's love. We want to share God's love. It's freely given to us, so we want to freely share it. So a lot of times when we're so caught up in ourselves, we're not operating in our design. We're not operating in love. We're covetous or consuming. We're not being generous. Look at Proverbs. Wow. Proverbs 11. Verse 25, it says, the liberal soul shall be made fat, and he that watereth shall be watered also himself. The word liberal there, if you interpret it in Hebrew, it's generous. So the generous soul shall be made fat or want for nothing. It says the person that waters, look, so I water Ernest, it says I'll be watered myself. That's God's system of sharing his love. You know, I have the gentleman actually died, but I oversaw some ministers at the last church I was at. I oversaw all the ministers and deacons. And so this guy was older, so it's about 15 years older than me, you think? Minister Howard. 10 years older than me? All right. But he had been in ministry for a long time, but just had never crossed over, like kind of was stuck in the same place. So the Lord told me to promote him to lead minister. And the Lord said, everything in you, you share with him. Now, he had been in ministry longer than I had been. So the temptation is, well, I don't want to share everything with him. He may blow up. It's retarded. So what I did was everything I knew, everything I thought of, all the angles, insights, whatever, I just kept dumping it. So he came up to me one day. He said, you know what? He says, you're awfully generous. So I've heard the word, and but I heard him differently. And he was saying, he says, you don't understand. He says, most people in this culture of ministry wouldn't be doing what you're doing. Like everybody keeps what they know or what they have because that's their edge. And I said, you know, actually that's what I was taught in Newark, New Jersey. Whatever you know, you keep to yourself because that's your edge. But the Lord told me whatever you have, you give it away. And he says, you're trusting that I'll replenish it and give you more. See, because when you're purged, the scripture says you produce much fruit. You was already producing fruit, but when that fruit is purged, removed or partaken of, what grows back is a whole lot more than what was removed. You ever like purge a plant, you purged it at a certain point, or pruned it for agriculture people. You pruned it at a certain point. Okay, there was one bud that grew out where you pruned it. Now when it starts to grow again, it's almost like 3 or 4 or 5 other buds that's creating 3 or 4 or 5 other branches. And as you keep pruning it, it produces much when it just had, it goes from singular to plural. And that's what God was